So you might notice in the video that we're about to show you, Father Nevitt's hair is a little bit shorter.
I haven't had a haircut in close to 4 months. We filmed part 1 of our 3-part series before this pandemic happened, and now we're able to get back together, film parts 2 and 3, a new intro, and we hope you enjoy it.
So here's part 1. Today we are talking about retreats, and it is such a big topic that we cannot fit it into just one episode or two. We're actually going to put it in a 3-part series. So this is part 1 of our 3-part series, and I have a friend here, Father Josh Nevitt, who's here with me, and he is just a very important part of these retreats. He actually was on our first retreat that I did with Young Adult Ministry, and he's one of the priests here in our diocese today. So that's pretty impressive to see what retreats I've done for you. So hi, Father Josh. Good to have you here.
It's great to be here. I have been involved in retreats since my freshman year of high school, and there's all kinds of retreats that young people can go on. There are leadership retreats, there are weekend retreats, there are service retreats. Now I work part-time in a Catholic high school. I get to run a retreat called Kairos twice a year with my students, and that's really a big once-in-a-lifetime experience for a lot of these young people. But today we want to talk about what Kari does here at this parish, Our Lady of Peace, where I grew up, and that's running a weekend retreat for high school students each year as really a big annual event as part of the youth ministry year.
Yeah, and these high school students, they look forward to it. They love it. It's the highlight. I call it the highlight of our year, or the apex of our year. It's just the highest moment. And if you watched an episode ago on Mountaintop Experiences, this is one of the ones that I mentioned because it's just so important to give them this a weekend away where they can really just focus on prayer and get away from the world. And so to do that, it takes a lot of planning in advance. You might be planning a weekend retreat a year to a year and a half in advance. And that sounds crazy, right? Like, oh, why do I have to plan it so far away? But it's because retreat houses book up. There's a lot of planning that has to be put into place prior. There's a lot of things that need to be put into place prior with chaperones and what have you. So there's a lot of planning that has to do. So
building the good foundation first is going to get you through the whole way. Being disorganized going into it, it's going to be an awful experience. Yeah. But having that great foundation right from the beginning, you need that time to plan.
Yeah, and you know what? That time to plan, that time to pray, and that time to really make it what it's going to be. And then once you have that first one under your belt, it kind of just rolls on out after that. And that's kind of where we are at. We're going to share all that in these 3 episodes. So first, planning. Where are you going to have this retreat, and when are you going to have it? So where? You want to look into other retreat houses in your local area. I suggest somewhere in the half hour, maybe 40-minute vicinity. Why? Parents are going to be dropping off those kids, and those parents are not going to want to go too far. I know for us, we have a great retreat house just about an hour and a half away. And we use it for our young adult ministry because they drive themselves there. But in the youth ministry, parents are not going to want to go that far. And so we selected a house that's about 25 minutes from our parish that works well for our retreats. Find a retreat house that's within, I would say, 20, 30, 40 minutes maybe within your area. And think outside the box because you might not land that retreat house where you want, maybe the retreat house that you want right nearby. And so maybe think outside the box. Can you use a campground? Can you use a Newman Center from a local college campus? Can you use other buildings that are maybe around within your diocese that are conducive to rooming situations for youth and adults and bathrooms and all of that? So think outside the box. If you can't find that exact perfect retreat house, maybe look a little further because I think that location is going to draw more youth if it's more local versus a little further away, but it's the perfect retreat house. So keep that all in mind when you're planning where to have this. Also, when. That's a really big topic because, look, they're high schoolers. They have priorities. So if there is a dance that weekend, a big high school football game that weekend, if it's playoffs for a certain baseball team or soccer team or whatever it is, it's going to deter youth from coming to that retreat. And so you need to plan it properly. We say in youth ministry, there's never a good time, right? Because somebody always has something going on. There's always something going on. But you can find maybe somewhere in your schedule, and again, this is going to be local to wherever you are, what actually works. But find a date that and time of year that's going to work for your ministry, work for your students, work for those attending. Because again, we're looking at high school students.
It is, and that might be going on your public school's website and pulling up their school calendar and seeing what events they have planned. It might be talking to someone in the parish that knows some of that stuff. There's no perfect time. You're never going to get everyone, but you can find a time that will work well for the majority of your students.
And ask your teens themselves. They know what's going on in their life, so they can basically guide you. Yeah, this is going to work. This is not going to work. It's homecoming season, or it's this and that. So talk to them, and they can help you, guide you, and talk to parents, again, people in the parish, people at the high schools. They're going to help you guide it. So once you find that retreat house, you find that date, now we're going to move into starting to plan out certain aspects of the retreat, because there is a whole lot that goes into planning a weekend retreat. So Father and I have been planning retreats together for years. We've known each other for years. We had the blessing of meeting each other through the work at this parish where he grew up in and attended the young adult ministry that I led. And so Father and I have known each other since then. And then seeing him through the seminary, I attended both his diaconate ordination, which is over in Rome. It was beautiful. It was an awesome experience to see that at St. Peter's and the Vatican there. And then also his priestly ordination. And he's also has a very strong connection to our family. He's baptized my son. He's a great priest, a great young priest, and he's doing great work at the high school he's at. But I've always had the blessing of having him work together with me for the last almost 10 years in planning retreats. So in planning them, we kind of have worked out a really great system in making them work. And the first thing that we always do is plan together is a day-long event where we plan the schedule of the retreat from Friday night to Sunday.
Yeah, so one of the things that we'll do first and throughout the year, Kari and I will both be listening for a song that could act as a theme song. We always have a theme song that becomes really the lyrics of the song, the title of the song becomes the name of the retreat that talks during the retreat. A lot of times it's a song that Kari hears on the radio and then she texts me, she says, what do you think? I'll run it through my head of what works for talks and different themes. And that comes out, a lot of times it works perfectly. The Holy Spirit leads us right to a song. Yes. Sometimes it's a Christian song. So there are some really great popular Christian songs. Other times it's not. Other times it's a purely secular song just with good content that you can listen to and hear in light of our faith. And that brings a whole different aspect.
I love using those songs too, because the kids really know them. They're like, oh, I love this song. You hear it on the radio, and now we've put a different angle on it. Like we've made it faith-based and it means something different to them. And these songs have to be a song that's catchy, that's good. You know, you don't want to use a song from the 90s or something, because it's not going to hit the youth where they need to be hit. They want to like it. They want to feel it. They want to enjoy it. And so we really try to find songs that are a little more popular or a little bit more well-known, or artists that are well-known, because it does help them kind of attach themselves to it. But again, in a faith-based and in a spiritual way. And that's really what makes it work too. Yeah. So next you want to plan out who are going to be those youth leaders on your team. We call it retreat team. Short reference is just team, and the kids know it. Our youth know it by that. They know when they're picked to be on team. It's a really big undertaking that they are being asked, and also they're being looked at in such a very special way in their faith. And so we really want to look at these kids. Who are the leaders in their faith, and what other kids are looking up to them? And can they be leaders both inside your youth ministry and outside? That's really important, because you have one of those youth that are living a double life, and they are out there. We hear them, we know them, they're in our ministry, and it does happen, and we need to address those, of course. But you don't want to pick those youth that are living double lives, because you're going to have the other youth saying, look at this one person. They act one way inside the youth ministry office and a total different way in school or outside of school on the weekends. And so that's really important. Who are those youth that are leaders in their faith, in and out of youth ministry, in and out of the church, in their everyday life, 24/7, 365. And well, it's leap year this year, so right? 366.
366 this year.
Yeah, whatever, right? So you want those youth to be those leaders. I start to plan this a year in advance again. Again, we have these retreats year in and year out. So if you're doing them regularly, you want to look, who are the kids that in last year's retreat really had an impact in their life? They're living their life in a beautiful way. They're following their faith. They could have potentially been leaders that year, but they were still maybe a little young. I have had leaders on the team that were freshmen and sophomore. There are very rare cases, but majority are juniors and seniors. And so I really do look to those upperclassmen. They've just matured a little bit more, both in their life and their faith. They've had different experiences by now under their belt. And then they're able to be on that retreat team and lead in such a very special way as mature, almost young adults at that point. They're 16, 17 years old. Some were even 18 years old on my past team. And so really selecting them, getting an idea. I generally have anywhere from 4 to 5 males and females, about 8 to 10 total on my team. Occasionally I've had 11, but that's because our ministry has grown. And so we've needed more leaders because we need them to do more things throughout the retreat. So anywhere, 8 is a good number. If your ministry tends to be a little smaller, 6 is fine too, but you want to balance it out male and female. You don't want it heavy on one end or the other. You want to pretty much have it equal if possible.
On top of your student leaders, your youth leaders, there's 2 other types of leaders that you really need for the retreat: young adult leaders and adult leaders. Young adult leaders tend to be retreat alumni, past leaders who maybe they can come back and dedicate a weekend volunteering, and they just set a great example to the young people of what living the faith is like. They don't have to be alumni though. Maybe someone came once they were in college and they're so involved and you think that they have something to share, bring them along too. After the young adult leaders, you need adult leaders. And these could be your regular youth group volunteers. They could be a parent. You want someone good. These are the people that not just serve as an example to the youth, but they can do a lot of that background work. They can be the one calling parents and making sure parents are nice and calm as their kids away from home for the first time. They can be the ones administering medicine and making sure that things get set up and cleaned up. It's important to have the adult leaders as well because you need chaperones by your diocesan policies. Look up whatever your diocesan policy is. Know that it might be different for an overnight event than for a one-day event. There's going to be certain ratios that you need to meet with adults to students to young people, ratios you need to meet with male and female leaders. There might be a minimum age. Whatever your diocesan policy is, find that out and make sure you're abiding by that.
Yeah, that's so important. And again, when you're selecting these leaders, you want ones that are going to relate to the youth and be able to really mix in well with them, because you don't want this young adult or an adult to turn off any of the youth over the weekend and them to have a bad experience because you selected maybe the wrong type of person. And you as a youth minister, kind of what the youth are looking for and expecting and what maybe they are not looking for. And so keep that in mind. Again, pray about all this. You want to keep all those young adults informed as to what they should be looking for over the weekend to help the youth, how they should be interacting with them, what is appropriate, what is not. They're going to look to your guidance for that as well. There's guidelines on that, of course, in your diocesan policies, but also just what you know as a youth minister and how to minister to youth. Share your own experiences with them. Don't just kind of bring them into this weekend and expect them to know how to interact, because it doesn't always work that way. Yeah. So that's really important too. Yep. So lastly, in the pre-planning stages of this retreat, you want to look at your schedule.
That whole day that we take that whole day.
The whole day. And it is a day worth, but it's a great day because we are really setting out what are we going to do on this retreat. Now, again, we've been blessed to have, we think we've done 11 together total planning. So a lot of retreats together where we have the files saved and we're able to now look back. What did we do last year? What are we going to change? So when you're first, though, setting up that first initial retreat and you don't know where to start, there's a couple easy places to start. First, you know the things that you need to build into a retreat. Things like mealtime, things like bedtime, things like mass, adoration, all the retreat experiences that you want to build in, those content that are going to lead the way. Put them in first, and then you can start building out around that. Some of the retreat houses, if they have their own cook or own chef on site, which is a blessing to have, they're going to dictate maybe when those times are for the meals. So build it around that. You know your breakfast time is at 8 a.m. Now, what are we going to do after that? What time are we going to wake up? It's also important. Retreats take a lot out of youth. We know when youth are together, they want to have a little party. They want to stay up late. Yeah. They want to talk. They want to share. And especially on these retreats, I think that is an important aspect where they are really just digesting the information each night, talking about what the Lord is doing on their hearts. And so you want to give them that time, but you want to build in set bedtimes for them and wake up times so that you ensure at least if they went to bed at the time, 8 hours is a good amount of time, because you're going to have those kids that are staying up late and you're going to say, oh, I didn't get any sleep. We also do all the adoration on one of the nights. So we're going to talk about that a little later, but they are going to be getting up. So you want to make sure that they get enough sleep to be able to wake up and have the proper rest time in between. It's
true. You also want to look, as you're planning the retreat, at the spiritual things, the things you might need a priest for: mass times, confession times, adoration. It would be a great blessing if your parish had a surplus of priests and you could have one with you the whole weekend. I doubt
Can you do that?
No, I don't think most parishes have that ability. So
pray for our priests, though, because we need more.
Pray for more. CamdenPriest.org.
So pray for more priests, because we need them. We need them to be around and to be there
Exactly.
throughout the entire weekend. So if you have that blessing in your parish to be able to have them there, it's great for the youth.
But if not, talk to your priest that you might be bringing in. You might really want confessions on Saturday at 4 p.m., but your pastor might have to be at the parish doing it then. So maybe do confessions Saturday morning, maybe do them Friday night. Talk to your pastor about his availability as you're planning this. Get him as involved as possible. No, he wants to be there as much as possible, but there's certain limitations to that. We can't be in two places at once unless you're Padre Pio, and I don't know any Padre Pios.
Yeah, so if gift to buy location hasn't happened yet to your priest, then ask them what is their availability, and again, work that into your schedule. And then after that, you can start to fill in with the different activities, different talks, different things that are going to take place within your schedule. And I also would suggest when you're filling it in, try to make it as planned as possible, but don't forget, leave room for the Holy Spirit, because there's things that pop up on retreats that you need extra time for, or maybe you planned the timing to be 1 hour for this event, but it actually only took 45 minutes. What do we do with the extra time?
Sometimes it's longer.
Or sometimes it's an hour and 15 minutes. It does happen. It will happen. So leave a little room for the Holy Spirit, a little wiggle room in your schedule. It'll do you a lot of good, so you're not stressed out that weekend. And we're going to talk in future episodes about all those little things that you actually put into the retreat. Skits and small groups and talks and all these different things is going to be in episodes 2 and 3. So stay tuned for more, because we have a lot more planned for you guys to share with you about these great things called retreats. So remember, you touch their hearts, you touch their souls. And on retreats, one of the biggest ways to touch their hearts is on these retreat experiences, and God will really truly bless your ministry for them. So God bless you, and thanks for watching.
See you.